In the time of Jesus, young women would marry at 13, 14, 15, 16. By the age of 20, they're considered older in terms of getting married. So you can only imagine for Anna, if it was in that time range that she may have married. And then she became a widow after 7 years of marriage. Well, if you do the math, she's 84 years old. She could have been a widow for 60 years or more. And it's hard to comprehend, isn't it? To think of someone that long having been married, widowed or widower, and alone, not marrying again. We don't know very much about Anna. We just have this mention about her, but there's something that seems to happen as a result of her being a widow. She comes to the temple. She prays daily. She's there day and night. She fasts and prays. She wants to be united with God. She is there like so many others, whoever they're praying for, whatever she feels very much. But she was probably like so many others, like yesterday hearing about Simeon, who also waited so long for the coming of the Christ child. And today, it's more than just fate or coincidence that we hear how Anna is also there. She's there every day. But even so, she still could have easily overlooked, not noticed this young couple who come with their child, Jesus. But here she sees, she believes, and she proclaims. No wonder she's called a prophetess. Usually we think of prophets like Ezekiel or Isaiah or Jeremiah in their wrestling with God, in speaking to the king, speaking to the people, prophetic, profound, very much aware of what God desires them to speak. But sometimes it's very simple. Sometimes you're not talking to leaders of nations or kings or that. Sometimes it's not great public statements, but it's being aware, pointing out, and sharing the gift of knowing and seeing and recognizing the presence of God. And that's what Anna did. She rejoiced. She gave thanks. She couldn't stop talking about it because it profoundly affected her. This was the hope not just of her and Simeon, but the people of Israel. They were under Roman occupation. They're hoping for a Savior. They're looking for a spiritual leader. They're looking for the great prophet. The Christ was to be so much for so many. And here it happens. And so this morning, I just invite you to be aware how God works in people who otherwise would be unnoticed. Simeon and Anna were not someone that people noticed. They weren't leading services in the temple. They weren't making all the sacrifices, but they were there in prayer. And they were doing what they felt God wanted them to do. And so I want to just pray for the people in our lives, whether it be yourself or others, who just feel, first of all, that call of God. It's part of the reason you're here at Mass this morning. You feel that sense that you want that sense of God. You want to point out God in your life and others. And to do it maybe in a quiet way, but one that is evident. You know, Anna could not hold back. Simeon could not hold back. And that's why they're so honored in our scriptures. And we want to honor them, but also by recognizing there are people in our midst who sometimes spend so much time in prayer, not necessarily noticed in the church. It might be coming to Mass. It might be in the Blessed Sacrament Chapel many times a week, or maybe just that 1 hour a week. It's up to you and when that happens. I see people every day from my window in my office, coming into church, going out. I can almost set my clock by certain people. I know what day of the week it is by certain people coming to church. They have their hour. They want that hour with God. We all want that time with God. This morning, let's thank God for the people in our lives who are like Anna and Simeon, wanting to be faithful, desiring to pray, willing to fast, but most of all, looking for the Lord. And once they recognize him, they have to share the blessing of seeing the Lord in their midst.